What's the core role of a professional working in HR?
So I think a lot of people have the perception that HR is about, hiring and firing of candidates and of staff, and it is. However, HR also has a strategic element to it, which looks at ensuring that we're able to help the business achieve their goals and our own. So whether that's through recruitment frameworks, retention processes, and just other frameworks alike. So making sure that the business goals align with exactly what they want to do, and we help them do that.
And what attracted you to a role in HR?
Initially, I thought that HR was about working with people, and I was always going to be, people focused and people oriented, and it is to an extent. But it wasn't until I started learning about the value that HR adds to an organization. So when I was in university, I did a module on HR, and I thought, wow, I didn't know that there was so much more that HR does for an organization, whether that's having, the right people in the right jobs, with the right skills, and being able to train them and being able to train them to be the best that they can be. For me, I thought, what more could I want from a job that's so rewarding, to be able to see people come through, train them, and have them be the best that they can be.
Great. So what do your day-to-day responsibilities include?
So they vary. It's important that we have people in the organisation and actually know where people are. So the first thing I do when I come in the morning is I log onto our system and make sure that everyone's in the office that's meant to be in the office. Now there'll be a various number of reasons why people aren't in the office, whether this is because they're on holiday or they've called in sick or time off for dependents, they're on a course, whatever it is, it's just important that I know where everybody is. And for those who are meant to be in and aren't in, then I can give them a call, make sure everything's okay. Sometimes people are running late, so it's just important for us to know where those people are. After that, my role varies, and it depends on a project that I'm working on. So currently we're looking at moving our appraisal system online, and so that's something that I've been heavily involved in and something that's taken up a lot of my time. And it's about to launch soon, so fingers crossed that all goes ahead really well. So it varies, my day-to-day activities vary, whether I'm in a meeting, I'm meeting with people who want to talk to me about things that are going on, it varies.
Okay. What then are your greatest challenges of the role?
I think the greatest challenges are being able to manage staff expectations with the business ones as well. And what I mean by that is sometimes staff will suggest that we do something and it doesn't work for the business, and vice versa. The business thinks actually maybe we should be doing this, and we think, well, what impact is that going to have on our staff? Are they going to be more productive, which is what we want them to be, because then the business benefits. So I think that's the greatest challenge, being able to find that balance and being able to measure it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So on the flip side, what's the greatest successes you encounter being in the role?
So the positive of what I've just said, so being able to actually have staff put something forward or have a project that you're working on and seeing it come to light, being able to do something that works for the staff and for the business, that's the greatest success. It takes time, but it's a huge success.
Fantastic. We're going to move on now to training and skills for working in HR. So did you undertake any particular training or qualifications for your role?
I did. So I have a degree in business where I also specialised in leadership in HR. I then went on to study a master's in HR. And then with your master's you get accredited by the CIPD, who are the Chartered Institute for Personnel Development. So I'm accredited by them at the highest level, and so I'm an associate of that board. So a lot of studying, but I also did volunteer and gain experience, of what it's like working in HR, because I think the theory is important, but actually it's more about how it works practically and how you can make that theory work in practice.
Okay, thank you. What kind of skills then do you think you specifically need to work in HR?
I think you need to be able to communicate. Communication is key. If you can't communicate well, and if you can't communicate with your staff and with the board, you're going to struggle. So communication is definitely key. Another thing I would say is being a team player. In HR, and the way it's moving, actually, HR is not just about the people and the fluffy stuff. Actually, we sit in the middle, and we have a very strategic element. So you need to be a team player. You need to be able to get the buy-in of staff and also get the buy-in of the board, and being able to work with both to make something come to light.
So what makes a quality interview?
I think for me, knowing about the organisation and about the role, and being able to demonstrate how the experiences that you've had will benefit that organisation, and how you'll be able to use those skills to do the role. But one of the key things for me, and this isn't spoken about a lot, is asking good questions. Now, I know a lot of times we're given advice about just ask a question, and that's great. But ask a question as if you're in the role. So if, for example, you know that the manager is sat in your interview, ask them a question about how do you delegate tasks to your team or within your team? How do you manage conflict when people aren't getting along? What steps do you take to ensure that, the team is working cohesively? Or how do you motivate your team under pressure? It's a given that in any organization, there will be times of pressure, there will be pressure points. So it's good for you to understand actually, when that pressure comes and we're all, under pressure and we're working late, how do you manage that? How do you motivate us? Those are really, really important questions.
And I think the important thing is there to remember that when you're interviewing, you're also interviewing the firm.
100%. So, I think we always forget that I'm being interviewed as, no, you're interviewing the firm as well. Do you want to work for that firm? Do they have values, and is their mission something that you can relate to? So it's not only about them interviewing you, you're interviewing them because you're going to work there. So you need to want to work there and like it.
Yeah. How important to you is it then that somebody has actually really genuinely researched GA before they interview?
I think it's really, really important. I mean, you have to ask yourself, if you are going to an interview, why wouldn't you research the company? Why wouldn't you want to know what a company's values are, what they stand for? Do they do any work in the community? Why wouldn't you want to know things like that? It's absolutely key. And I think sometimes, in interviews, you can be asked, could you demonstrate how you've used, or give us an example of how you've used one of our 3 core values? If you've done no research, you can't answer that question. And you can't now guess what their 3 core values are. So it's really, really important. I think research into the company and for us, into GA is key.
Yeah. Do you use LinkedIn for recruitment at all?
We don't necessarily. I use LinkedIn to check that the CV that you've sent me and the experience that you've put on your CV matches with what's on LinkedIn. Because a lot of times people do put their experience on LinkedIn, whether it's their uni, volunteer work that they've done, that's all on LinkedIn. So for me, I just use it to check that correlates and that matches. But one thing that I'll say about social media and the LinkedIns is recruiters do check social media. I know a lot of people don't like to talk about it, but it is the reality, they do. Because it gives recruiters a better insight into who you are. Your Facebook is not going to be professional and, it'll give me a bit of insight into who you are. Do you like horses? Do you like spending time with your family? Whatever it is. So I'll always be mindful, and my top tip is always just be mindful of what you put on social media, what you're tweeting, what you're sharing. And that seems a bit unfair because it is your personal space, but you want to make sure that those platforms are representing you well. And you want to make sure that some of your opinions that might not go down so well are not on the internet.
Yeah.
So really important.
And I think it's generally good advice for students in particular to just always think about what they're putting out there, regardless of employment. But I do think that once it's out there, it's almost your initial interview, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So that's very helpful advice. And finally then, often we get students asking, I've got questions about a role. Mm-hmm. Would you advise an applicant to contact a HR professional before they apply to ask those questions? I would.
I wouldn't say no, but what I would also say is just be mindful of the kind of question that you're asking, because a lot of time there's a lot of information on the job advert, there's a lot of information on the person specification, and there will be a lot of information on our website about who we are, what we do. So it's important that you're not just calling just so that they can say, oh yeah, she called, we want to remember her, but actually call with a really good question, call with intent and purpose, not just to look eager and keen. So just be mindful of that. Yeah,
that's good advice. Do you have anything else you'd like to share about working in HR or working for GA in particular you think might be useful for a student with ambitions to either work at the firm or to work in HR?
I think working at the firm is great. It's a modern, innovative firm, and it's really easy for me to talk to my senior colleagues. It's almost what we call an open door policy. So I'm free to go and give any suggestions that I have, and they do ask for feedback and what we think and how we can improve. So that's always really important when you're looking at working for an organisation, is being comfortable to give feedback and being comfortable to say, actually, I think maybe you could do this process differently. To anyone looking to work in HR, go for it. You know, if you really want to work in HR and you're passionate about it, then definitely go for it. I mean, I think the most important thing in HR is confidence. It's being confident that you can do the job. Personally, for me, when I came to interview here, I'd only had about 2 years experience, and they were looking for a bit more. But I knew within myself, based on obviously my degrees and the minor experience that I'd had, that I could do the job, and I have. And this is how I'm in those roles, because I'm confident and I know I can do it. So that's really, really important.
Okay, yeah, that's good advice. Thank you. Anything else you'd like to add?
No.
No? All right, thank you so much for your time.
That's okay, thank you.